Okay. Hey, good afternoon, folks. Appreciate everyone attending today and talking about the migration from Payment Center to Global Card Access, which we will refer to as GCA in all the discussion. So what we're going to do right off the top is to review the timeline for that transition. Many of the folks in the audience have seen the timeline, that sort of thing. Others may be new to this, but we want to make sure that everybody has it up front as the first slide. Then what we're going to do is introduce a couple of the specialists on Global Card Access from Bank of America. They are present as speakers. I will introduce them and they will have a few words for everyone. They will be doing the live training and a little bit later on. Then I'm going to give everybody a background on the transition to Global Card Access, the things that we've gone through and the things that B of A has helped us with. And then I'm going to recap the 10 steps to access your monthly statements or cardholder statements on Global Card Access. We had first sent those out a week ago Monday to everyone. I'm going to highlight those, cover the key points of them, and then we're going to turn it over to B of A to literally demonstrate the key procedures. One, obviously login, that's the first one, but several others that will be key for administrators and cardholders for navigating the new platform. And that will take a good chunk of the time, and we want to make sure that we spend as much time as we need to on that. One, for the benefit of the people lifetime, but also so that once it's recorded, there is robust content for a downstream audience. Then it'll come back to me, and I'm going to walk through many, if not all, of the what if FAQs that we circulated last Monday. These are things, if you have questions or if things go wrong logistically, that sort of thing, we will talk through. And then to the extent that we have time available, we'll open it up to general questions overall on P-Card. We have not had a meeting of the constituents of P-Card for about 4.5 years or so. We've obviously spoken and worked with any number of the agencies, the CFOs, the administrators of the agency and agencies, and cardholders. And we want to make sure that we take advantage of the time that we have to do exactly that. Okay. So next slide, please. And thank you. What we've done is for the benefit of the recorded audience, we've put pacing slides in between the subjects so everyone knows exactly where they're at, what they might have missed, that sort of thing. So this is the firm timeline that we are working against. On the 21st, last Monday, we sent FAQs to all the CFOs for distribution to their payment center users. Those were listed, and want to make sure that the CFOs have done that by and large. They have. And then on the 25th, we sent out the Zoom invitation for this meeting today. Concurrently, B of A sent a welcome to GCA email out to everyone. We've had a few reports that those haven't been received. So we would ask you to check your email sometime between 2:30 and 3 o'clock on Friday. That's when B of A released those. We've had a couple of people ask, well, where are they? And we said, well, it's 2:30 to 3. And sure enough, they found those. So we'd ask you to look for those again. We are here today for potentially 2 hours to go through live training. We're looking forward to that. So if we talk about the hard business of P-Card, November 1st, this Friday, agencies download their October statements. They can do it either on Payment Center, or if they're registered in GCA, they can do it on either platform. It is the same statement. But be aware that on November 12th, Payment Center will close for good, and the statements will only be available on Global Card Access after those days. So we've got a month of transition here when you can do both, but then GCA begins in earnest on December 1st. So next slide, please. Yeah, I want to introduce our guest presenters today. You can see them at the top of the screen. Dwayne Peitzel, and I hope I have that right, Dwayne. You and I have spoken several times, but Dwayne is the Director of Treasury Product Management. He owns the Global Card Access platform. He's been responsible for the migration from Payment Center to GCA. Just an incredible wealth of knowledge. He's walked us through different phases of this, and a very, very helpful manager at B of A. He's been there for 19 years. He's in Charlotte, I'm presuming, this afternoon. Dwayne's going to be doing most of the demonstration today. But then Chris Bogner, Chris is our account manager, B of A. He's on the commercial card team there. He works exclusively within the public sector, meaning government or in higher education. He's been doing this for 25 years, and he is in Dallas. And so I'd like to ask Dwayne and Chris to briefly introduce themselves to the group. Dwayne?
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Clark, and thanks for having me. Really excited to be here with you all, kind of walk through the migration items. And I'm going to be doing a demonstration here, a little bit of what it's going to be like to log in for Global Card Access if you haven't already done so. And I'll try and share with you guys some tips for navigating around and accessing various things in Global Card Access. But I appreciate, Clark, you guys having us here, and definitely feel free to ask any questions that you have around Payment Center or Global Card Access. And then I would also welcome any feedback that you guys have for us of things that you like or don't like within Global Card Access, or things that could help you guys out while we're here. So thank you, Clark, for the time. And Chris, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you, Dwayne, and thank you, Clark and Mark, for having us. Again, my name is Chris Bogner. I support the state from a card perspective, and was fortunate enough to reach out to product partner Dwayne and to be able to assist here. And I do also want to thank everyone for the state of New Mexico for your business, and know that we appreciate it. And I hope that everything goes well here. So back to you, Clark.
Okay. Thanks so much, Chris. Mark, next slide, please. One more. Thank you. Let's look at a little bit of background. Payment Center is a 17-year-old platform. It was introduced, Dwayne was telling me, in August of 2070. Here in New Mexico, as a result, we've downloaded better than 200 cycles of monthly P-card company statements. And conservatively, better than 40,000 cardholder statements have been accessed during this time. I say conservatively because we don't know for sure, but if we do the math, we've gotten a lot of use out of Payment Center. B of A is in the final stages of migrating better than 120,000 users from Payment Center to GCA. Users in North America, Africa, and Asia. We are among the last 40,000, if you will, that are being migrated over the past several months. We are among the last to migrate. We've learned lessons from other clients, and we've also been able to tap into the expertise that Dwayne and Chris and the folks at B of A have been able to provide to us. And in that process, B of A has been incredibly helpful to the state of New Mexico. We've asked for and we've gotten. They've customized the platform for us to eliminate payment capability. It was always there on Payment Center, but we wanted to make sure that no user of GCA would go down that rabbit hole and somehow miraculously make a payment when all the payments go through share. We asked them about this, and instead of them saying, well, why do you want to do that? What they said was, when do you want to do it? Just an incredible approach and an attitude. And Dwayne, thank you for that. You guys have also allowed us to remain a payment center user until 11:59, if you will. Originally, it was scheduled for October 1st, and some of you have gotten or had gotten at the time emails to that effect. We went back to DFA and said, hey, we need more time on this. How much can we get? Well, you've got till the platform closes November 12th. We couldn't do any better than that. So thank you again, folks. And you guys have closely coordinated the conversion date. We've actually had to change that a couple of times. We thought we were there, but then we had to delay it. And Dwayne was just incredibly helpful. When do you want to delay it to? And we ultimately wound up doing that last Friday. And then importantly, DFA has provided the expert on global card access to us here in New Mexico. My experience has been with large organizations. I mean, this is unprecedented. So Dwayne, thank you. And Chris, thank you for making that happen. We're here today because of your help and your flexibility in making all of this happen. So from us here at the state of New Mexico, even though we've had some, talked to different agencies, haven't gotten this, that, and that, we are just incredibly thankful for you guys doing that. So thank you. Next slide, please.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Last Monday in the evening, CFOs received an email from me and a packet of information on this conversion, this migration process. It looks like what's over on the right, that was the attachment. And we asked that it be passed along to anyone who was in Payment Center. We provided a list for each agency. Okay? The 10 steps that I'm going to briefly talk about today and that Dwayne is going to demonstrate in GCA are the following. Now, open the GCA system generated email. We talked a little bit about that. Straightforward, click complete registration. There is a first level security check. There is an initial password setup. There is login. Two-factor authentication, accepting terms and conditions. If you're a card holder, verifying that you have the card in front of you, confirming contact information, and then finally, 10 steps later, getting to access statements. These are protocols that everyone has to go through for the first time. Authentication, security, etc. Some of you in the audience have already gone through that process. You're already registered. Other people haven't found the email. Maybe they've stumbled a little bit. So I'm just going to top line what these are right now. And then Dwayne's going to demonstrate those live time. So next slide, please. Okay. On Friday, we got emails from a couple of people saying, hey, what is this from B of A that I'm getting? That sort of thing. You would have gotten an email that looks like the large image in the graphic. It is not spam. And we here in New Mexico have had a lot of spam from a lot of outsiders, and we certainly understand your trepidation about not wanting to open something like that. So that's why we'll be talking about what that looks like. For cardholders, you'll need to have your physical card present to register. Obviously, administrators don't have cards, you won't need one. You click the complete registration button. Then there's the first level security check. Okay? B of A has sent this email to the email address under which users were first registered. Some people have been in the system for a long time, but they continue to use it. And they may very well have emails that say state.nm.us. That is an old suffix. Our IT folks continue to forward those, that sort of thing. Okay? If you do receive it with that suffix, complete the registration steps. You'll have a chance in step 9 to get it to the nm.gov suffix. You can key enter your username instead, and that is the same username as in Payment Center and the same that showed up in the first image on this page. That's the first level security check. Next slide, please. Your initial password, you're going to have a new password versus Payment Center. It's not going to carry over. It's not going to auto-populate. Maybe your browser can auto-populate it, but you will still need a new password. And then the all too familiar 3 personal security questions, those have to be answered. With Payment Center, we would always get questions at the start of the month. What are they? And we say to people, write those down and make a note of them. There's no way that we here at DFA would know that. And again, passwords will expire every 90 days. Expect that. At the start of each month, we probably get 4 or 5 Payment Center lockouts, that sort of thing. Remember your security questions, and make sure that you have your passwords, and perhaps even do it in advance. Number 5, log in. After you click submit, you're going to be moved to the GCA login screen. That is a new screen. You would not have seen that before. You enter your username, which has carried forward from Payment Center, and your just established password. Okay. Once you've done that, you are at least halfway into Global Card Access. So next slide. Just like in Payment Center, there will be 2-factor authentication. They're going to send that to the email address at which you received the initial invitation. Okay. Some people get real impatient. Well, I'm not getting it right away. And so what they do is they then re-register. Well, what happens is you wind up getting on a hamster wheel, and you can't get in because you wind up getting a 2-factor authentication message for the first one after you've tried to log in a second time. So be patient. Accept the terms and conditions. This is a one-time event. You will not have to do this every time that you enter. It's very similar to Works and Payment Center. If anyone has any questions about that, before you click that button, please get in touch with me. Try to explain something that's there. I'm not an attorney, anything like that, but have certainly seen a lot of legalese and can explain what is there. And if I can't answer it, I could certainly have the good folks at B of A do that. But accepting terms and conditions, that is step number 7. Next slide. Okay. If you are a card holder, and there are many card holders who were registered in Payment Center who now migrate over to Global Card Access. These tend to be card holders at the larger volume and larger number of P-card agencies, such as a DOH or a CYFD. And those aren't the only ones, but those are ones where their administrators have said, hey, you need to get your statements directly. Well, if you were registered in Payment Center, all of those card details come over to GCA. But you as the card holder have to verify that. That's why you have to have your card handy, because it will ask for the 3-digit security code. Not too many, but a few card holders around the state have more than one card. Sometimes it's for emergency use at an agency. Other card might just be used for everyday or mainline use. You have the ability to register or to have both cards verified. There will be a drop-down menu if the system senses that you have 2 cards. That is step number 8. Administrators skip that because they obviously don't have a card. And we're almost there. You confirm the contact information. You verify your email address and a mobile phone number. And as most of you know, we have been doing everything that we can to get mobile phone numbers into the appropriate fields within Works, and then that moves them over to mobile card access. Mobile phone numbers are, if I can say it, mobile phone numbers, that's for call-in authentication. If you're needing to talk to B of A, it's far easier for them to identify you if you have the cell phone in their system, because most of the time people are using cell phones when they're calling in. But the flip side is if BFA senses something suspicious about your card, their activity, they're able to issue a fraud alert. Hey, is this a valid charge or not, to the mobile phone number on file. And that is a no cost to the phone owner text from B of A. Here in step 9 is where you can correct your email address to put in the relatively new nm.gov suffix. You do it, you click that, and all of the communication from B of A will come to the nm.gov suffix. So number 10. Next slide, sorry. Okay, so now you are actually there after all of these steps, and you're able to access the statements. On the instructions, there's detail where those are. Administrators who've had access to company statements and individual cardholder statements will have the same permissions in GCA. There could be some glitches, that sort of thing. We're certainly ready for those. Individual cardholders who had access to only their card will have the same permissions within GCA. And the graphic shows you where that's located on the screen at GCA, but then when you go all the way down to the bottom, that dark blue field, that looks very familiar because that's actually what's on Payment Center, but they've migrated that over to GCA. And once you're there, you're home in terms of viewing your statements. So are there any questions on this, these 10 steps, before I turn it over to Dwayne, who's going to demo all of what we've talked about and then some?
Clark, you had one question from an anonymous attendee, and they're asking, what if they did not receive the welcome email?
Okay. What we would ask them to do is to check their email Friday between 2:30 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, check spam filters, and see if it's there. If not, please send me an email saying that you didn't receive it. And if you are an administrator or if you are a card holder, tell me that in the email and we will get you registered in Global Card Access, not immediately because we've got a whole lot of housekeeping like this to do, but we will get you registered before December 1st. We're going to be working through the queue on that. Do send me an email. Check first, see if you have it. Do send me an email. And with the particulars I've mentioned, we will get you registered and then communicate back to you that you are registered. So thank you, anonymous caller.
There's a second question, Clark, from Dave. He's asking, what if I have never registered in Payment Center?
Okay. I would, it would depend on the role that Dave has, whether Dave is a P-card administrator, a person in finance at an agency, or a card holder. So again, the same would apply to you, Dave. Send me that information, and we would certainly qualify your registration with your agency to make sure that makes sense. Because not every card holder at every agency has access to Payment Center based on what the agency's policies, the agency's procedures are. So do send me that information. We'll qualify it. If it makes sense, we'll get you registered and let you know.
That's all you have, Clark.
Oh, good deal. So next slide, and I'll turn it over to Dwayne at that point.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Clark. And as I'm going through this demo, I can show maybe another option as well for those users who had Payment Center and for whatever reason didn't receive an email. You can view your user ID and ask to reset your password and get like a password reset link from GCA, and that may work. And then you're also always welcome to contact us here at the bank if you're having any issues logging into Global Card Access or having any issues with any of those features. So I'll demonstrate that as I go through this process. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen here and see. Sorry, I'm just looking for the screen that I want to share. Okay, I guess I'll start with, it looks like I have to select each screen. So I'm going to start with this one first. So this is the email that Clark had mentioned as far as you would receive it and you would select the complete registration button here. So I am going to select that now to go through and demonstrate what that looks like. I may need to then share the screen that's opening here. Just give me 1 second. All right. And you guys, Chris, if you could just give me a nod, you guys are seeing the Global Card Access page, right? That has the
Yes. The initial
Yes.
enter
security
email
check.
address.
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is exactly what it would look like for you guys. What I'm showing you here, though, I guess before I get started, I should caveat this. This is a like a test environment that I'm using. So it's not a production environment, which makes it good because I can do whatever I want to in this environment. But I'm sharing with you guys from the test environment. So these are users that I've just set up to kind of walk through each of these procedures for you. All of the features work in our test environment. It's just sometimes the setup of the accounts may not function, but these should work just fine because I've tested them out. So what you want to do for your initial security check is enter in your email address or user ID that you received in the email. So I'm just going to go ahead and put in my email address that I have here.
Dwayne, are you sure you want to know?
No, that's fine. And then I'm going to select submit. And this is where it goes to Clark had mentioned the new password screens or the new password and confirm password. So I'm going to go ahead and type that in here. If you make any mistakes on the screen, usually it'll come up and tell you, like if you use something that's not allowed in the password, it'll let you know that, or something that's not allowed in the answer. But generally, it should just go through just fine. And again, this is just our test environment as well. So just go ahead and once you put in that information, you can select submit. Then it's going to bring you back down to your changed, basically it's going to say your password has been changed and bring you back to the login screen. This is where you're going to begin by entering in the user ID and the password that you just established. So just give me 1 second. Let me pull up that user ID that I set up myself. All right, and so once I put in my user ID and password, I can sign in. I'm going to go ahead and sign in, but I'm going to come back to this piece right here where you have forgot ID and password. So if you did not receive the email, it's possible that the user ID is in there, just for some reason you may not have received the email. And so I'll walk through what you can do with the forgot ID password option. So for now, though, I'm just going to click sign in. All right, when I sign in, as Clark mentioned, it's going to send me an email. I'm not going to share the email with you, but it's just like the one that Clark has. It's going to be coming from Global Card or Bank of America commercial card. It'll have Global Card Access references to it, and then you'll have a 6-digit passcode or what they call a verification code that you can copy and paste, or just look at it and type it in here. But once you paste in your code, or if you don't receive it, you can always click resend code. However, I would give it some time. I know Clark and I talked about this a little bit. When we log in, we've traced it, and the email goes out within milliseconds of you doing it. However, just like anything else, it's going to go out of our system, over the internet, into your email system, and then everybody else have to scan it, make sure that it's appropriate to go through. So there are some reasons why it could be delayed. So I would give it a few moments, but it is sent within milliseconds of logging in. And if you guys have any issues, or if you guys are seeing issues with this particular agency, we'd be glad to kind of work with you and see if we can find out where that bottleneck is or where that issue lies. But for the most part, if you just give it a few minutes, it should come through. So once you put in the passcode, as Clark mentioned, you'll accept these terms and conditions. And again, if you guys have any questions about these terms and conditions, or anything in here, again, please feel free to reach out to myself or Clark, and we'd be glad to walk through that with you if you have any questions. So once you accept the terms and conditions, you'll be brought essentially to your homepage here. And so again, this is in our test environment. So I have kind of a test card set up here with just some test data in here. One of the features that I wanted to walk through is basically how an administrator can access the company and cardholder features. So underneath statements here at the top as well. So I'm just going to walk through this. I know Clark had mentioned using the view statements link, but here within GCA, you also have access to the statements here, where you can select statements up top. If you have corporate statements, they'll also be here. Again, just being in our test environment, this corporate account doesn't have any statements available, but if they did, they would just show up here, and you can choose the year in which you wanted to view those statements. But to view cardholder statements, if you wanted to search for a cardholder statement, you can type in the account name from this tab, or the account last four. So I went ahead and just looked at an account that we had in here that had a statement, just to kind of ease the training along here. But once you filter in the user or cardholder that you want to see a statement on, you can select that user. You can hit this button here. You can click show statements. All you have to do is basically select that line somewhere on that line. And what that's going to do is it's going to go out and get all the statements for 2024 for this particular user. Now, this user only had statements in January and March. If you had statements for all 12 months or each of the months that has occurred, you would see each of those statements there. And from this, you can select this PDF here, or again, just click anywhere on this line. And what that's going to do is then essentially your browser takes over. So depending on the browser that you have, it will pop up here in the right-hand corner, or it may ask you to save the file local, just depending on your settings. But again, once you save that file, your browser kind of takes over according to whatever settings you have on your browser. You can select that statement, and it will show up just like, again, this is just like our test environment. So we just have some statements in here, some bogus statements in here for demonstration purposes, but you can then download those statements there. I'll also highlight another feature is the statement download feature. So this feature, you can select, for your billing account, you can select any particular statement period. So for example, if I select October, I can enter a name here for October as a program administrator. And what I can do is generate file for that particular billing account that I have access to. If I have multiple, there'll be a drop down there. But I can select generate file. Now what this is going to do is this is going to generate a zip file for all of the cardholder statements within this company. Each one will be its own individual PDF statement, but it'll be a zip file in there for you guys to, if you need to take that zip file, save it somewhere, if you just wanted to view all the statements, if that's what was needed. So what happens is we send this request off, it gets processed in the back end. Once the file's kind of ready, it'll come back in here and you can download it. I'm betting once I finish with the demo, or some of the other items in the demo, I can come back to the screen and show you guys what that file looks like. But for now, I'm going to continue to move on to some of the other features. So that's viewing a statement from a program administrator perspective. What I'm going to show you now is this user, I set it up specifically to have a PA and a cardholder account. So this user, again, if you notice up here at the top, I also have access to my accounts. So I'm a program administrator, but then I also have a My Accounts tab that I can access as a cardholder. So this particular account, again, it's in our test environment, but I thought it would be good to demonstrate, like if it's a past due, it'll come up here and let you know that if it's individually billed. Obviously, I think you guys might have corporately billed programs, but we have a message up here if you have an account that's past due, and it'll have you, revert to your statement. It has information about the cardholder's card here. If you had any activity, again, this doesn't have any activity right away, but if you did have activity on the account, it would display right here. And then you would have your statements for download here. And again, you'll notice that this is very similar to the same user that I searched for as the PA. And so this user has a January and March statement for 24, and they can select this PDF just like we did before and download that. So that's how an individual cardholder would download their statements. You can also view transactions, both as a PA and as a cardholder. If you wanted to go into transactions, you can see your current transactions. You can see historical transactions for prior billing periods, if you have any of those, for those billing periods. You can also go to authorizations and see those. Again, these accounts, this account here that I'm looking at, the test account, doesn't have any active authorizations. And so this would be like, if I went to and made a purchase like today, this would show up in here and I can see it in authorizations. And I can also download those transactions as they occur as well.
Say Dwayne, Dwayne, an observation. Some of this functionality is in Payment Center, but it's not that widely known by administrators or cardholders. And the authorization information, that is the same as in Payment Center as in Works, correct?
Yes. Yep. It's pulling from the same source. So it'll match within Payment Center, within GCA, within Works. All of it's going to be the same.
I didn't want folks who were using Works to look at their authorization log to think that somehow this would be different. It's just a different place to find it.
Sure. Yep. No, that's exactly right. So again, to download these, you could select download, you enter a file name. We have right now Excel format and within our upcoming November release. So that, again, this is our testing environment. So you're getting a little bit of a sneak peek of a feature that's going to be coming out in November, is where we'll be able to download in QuickBooks. I don't think you guys use QuickBooks or QuickBooks Online, but there are some clients who advise that they're using QuickBooks. So we've added that format for them. But for the most part, you guys are going to choose Excel. Again, you can type in a file name here and submit. And what that's going to do is it'll generate the Excel file and you can download it. Again, this is, again, just test data in here, but it would have, transaction date, merchant category code, merchant information, the currency, conversion rate. So it has all the same information that you would have seen within Payment Center. And again, it would match exactly what you guys would see within the Works platform. So that's for the cardholder. If I go back to the administrator account, by selecting it up here, you'll notice that I can also go to transactions here for the administration account. And if I select the first account, which is the corporate account, I will see transactions and authorizations for everybody in that particular company. So if I choose whatever period, again, this is just, test data, but I can see as a program administrator transactions that occur. Again, this is on a completely different account, that we have here. And then same thing with authorizations. I can see all the authorizations for anyone underneath my program or that I have access to as a program administrator. And same thing applies. You can download these as well. So the only real thing that changes with these features is just your scope that you have access over. So I think now might be a good time to pause and see if there's any questions out there that I can answer. And then I have a few more things that I want to show you guys, but I think I can pause now. Would be a good time to see if there's any questions out there.
There are a few questions. The first one is, can you confirm if the user ID is case sensitive?
The user ID is not case sensitive, but great question.
Okay. And then the next question is, if I'm already accessing GCA, will anything change for me when it changes over next month from Payment Center to GCA?
Yeah, no, great question. So no, if you're already using GCA, there'll be no change on GCA. This is only for those users who were using Payment Center on a regular basis. If you're already using GCA to download your statements and transactions, you shouldn't notice any changes here in the coming months.
Okay. And the next question is, what is the difference between a cardholder statement and a corporate statement?
Sure, yeah. So the cardholder statement, really is just the scope of what you're going to see. So like a cardholder statement would show just a specific card and the transactions that are on that card program. A corporate statement is basically going to show you all of the cardholder statements, like a consolidated view in one file of all of the cardholder statements. And then at the top, usually there's a summary about the corporate balance, the corporate information. So that would be basically all of the cardholders in that program roll up to a larger account that you would see. But that's the main difference, is just the accounts that are displayed on the statement.
Okay. And then the last question that we have right now is, I have had to submit a password reset and have yet to receive a temp password. So how long does it usually take if you submit a password reset?
Yeah, so if you submit a password reset, again, it should only take a few minutes for you to get that email, and I'll demonstrate that here on the phone as well. However, I can't predict where that email is going, like if it's getting caught in a spam filter or by someone else along the way. I can show you what it looks like, but it shouldn't be more than a few minutes. It may be a good idea to just contact us, and that's another thing as well, is we do have just a contact us option up here in the top right hand corner that you can click, and you can access this without having logged in as well. Then you can choose your region, and then you'll have all of the contact information here that you can reach out to us, and we should be able to get you logged in there. But I do apologize if you're receiving delays and not getting the emails. There could be so many things in between the email going out and you receiving it. In some cases, it's just best to for you to contact us, and we can figure it out.
And it looks like the anonymous attendee requested it Friday. So if you received it, requested it Friday, it sounds to me like you either need to attempt to try to do it again, or check your spam or your firewalls, because it sounds like there's an issue going on there.
Yeah,
and I guess I have a question. In the past, we've been able to reset passwords and accounts. Would we still be able to, the program administrators here at DFA, like Clark or myself or Zach, would we still be able to do that?
Yes, you will be able to do that. That's a great segue. I think that was the last question. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll demonstrate that. That was going to be my next thing that I demonstrated. So Yes, administrators will have access to all of the users within their scope. So if you have access to more than one billing account, you can see all of those. And then as you go to the administration screen, you can see all of the users. Again, this is a test environment. But if I wanted to look up a user, I can do it by name or email address. And then once I'm in here, I can view what access that user has, or I can reset the password. Resending a welcome email is basically the same thing as what I just demonstrated earlier. They're gonna reset their password and allow them to set up new security questions, do the password. So some people like to just do resend welcome email, or you can just do reset the password if they already know, the security questions. And then you can also deactivate the user if that needs to be done. And then if you select view full details, as a program administrator, you can update the email address. So if they're not getting the email, perhaps because the email address is incorrect, you can go in here and update the email address and then send the accounts. You can also give them different access here as a program administrator in the system, or even update their user ID or name.
And Dwayne,
So,
just to
great
add
question.
to that, yeah, just to add to that, the other, for folks who have migrated or are going to be migrating to Global Card Access, once you're once you're registered, and if you have the password issues, continue to reach out to us at DFA, just as you did with Payment Center, and we will go through that reset process with you to get you into Payment Center. And not that you can't contact the good folks at DFA, but I didn't want anyone to think that DFA was abandoning them with the migration.
Yep, no, thanks for that, Clark. So I believe that answered the question and went into one of the items that I wanted to demonstrate. So in addition to editing a user or resetting a password here, program administrators can also create new users. So if you wanted to if you have a new user or a new PA that you want to create, it's very easy to create. So if I wanted to create myself with an ID, if I was a new PA, I can do that. I would just put in the user information. And just click save and continue once you put in the user information. And then if it just was a PA person, I could do that. If it was a card holder, I can select this. And all you do is you select the role that you want to give them, and you select add accounts. And if I wanted to do all of them, I could just select this one has just one account, so I can add that here. And if I was a PA and a card holder, I could do that as well. And again, just add accounts and then select whatever accounts that I wanted to add. But once I select finish, you'll get a little icon up here, and then the user gets an email, that same welcome email that they would have received as part of the migration. For program administrators, again, that may also answer the question if there's a program administrator who receives a phone call from a user who says, hey, I'm trying to look at my statement and I was not in Payment Center before, they would need to go through this new creation process.
Right. So Dwayne, what we will do is for folks who were not in Payment Center and intentionally not registered there, knowing that we were going to do the migration, what we here at DFA in New Mexico will do is to register them either as a cardholder, most likely a program administrator, just exactly as you've done here. And we've been, for the benefit of some of the folks in the audience, we intentionally did not put you in Payment Center because we didn't want you to have to learn two different platforms. And so what we've done there is we've simply said, we're going to download your statements until you are in Global Card Access, and then we'll give you the ability to do that.
All right.
We do have another question. Ariana asks, my GCA is showing me as a card holder still instead of a program administrator. How can that be adjusted?
Yep. So any of the other administrators within the state should be able to adjust your ID and give you access that is needed. And then if you were in a payment center and come over, I'd be glad to look at that and see why maybe that access did not come over correctly, but it should have came over just as fine. If you were just set up in GCA, or maybe you registered in GCA yourself from your cardholder account and never had a PA account, that could be also one reason why it's not there. But any of the administrators within the state agency that have access to the corporate account that you should be the administrator over can grant you that access.
Yeah, Ariana, and I think I know which Ariana that is. We'll be happy to move you over to make sure that you've got the same permissions that you had when you were in Payment Center. And you obviously still have them now, but those will go away November 12th.
All right, great questions. I think the last feature that we had here on my list was just how can they access Works? And so I know if you are also a user of Works, you can select Works down here, and that will take you into the Works login where you can enter in your email and login and password. I will say sometime in the near future, again, I don't have a specific date for you guys, but sometime in the near future, we are integrating global card access with Works. And so all you will have to do at that point, when you log in, is you could select Works, and then that'll log you in directly to Works with the same access that you have in global card access. Again, that's going to be future, and I don't want to talk too much about that since this is about the payment center migration, but just something to look forward to in the near future.
Good deal, Dwayne. While we're on here, during the course of both of our presentations, I've had several email notifications pop up saying that the of the folks who were migrated on Friday, and I've been able to confirm that, they have not received the welcome email. They're very diligent in checking their spam filters. Would BofA be able to resend those invitations from Friday, recognizing that some people have already registered successfully?
Yeah, if you have a list of those users that have for whatever reason are not able to receive those, I can definitely take a look at that and see if I can find out why they are not getting them, but then also resend the welcome email. I will say for those users as well, if they wanted to try this out, I'm going to log out here. So if you have a user in here and it's just a matter of not receiving the welcome email because you were already in Payment Center, which should be most of you, you can use this forgot ID and password. And even if you don't know your user ID, you can put in your email address here and get user ID, and that will send you an email with your user ID. And then once you know for sure your user ID, which should be the same thing as what you had in Payment Center, but if you wanted to just check that, and then when you put in your email address and user ID together and hit reset password, that'll also send you an email. Again, if the email is getting blocked by spam or some other reason, I know that won't satisfy that update, but there are options in here where if you were a user of Payment Center, you should be able to put your email address in here and it will retrieve your user ID. And then when you put in your email address and user ID here and select reset password, it will send you an email that you are able to reset your own password. So there's options for sure if you're not getting that email.
And rest assured that we will have everybody who was in Payment Center migrated, excuse me, to GCA in time for December 1st. And in the meantime, you would download your October statements November 1st off of Payment Center. We knew that there would be transition migration problems with this, and that's why we've had as much time for the migration as we have had.
And just so you guys aren't copying the same URL here, so if you want to go to GCA without an email or just to go to the URL, you can just go to bankofamerica.com and then /GCA. That'll redirect you. That's like a URL that just redirects you to the more longer production login. But that's an easy way to get into the Global Card Access production site. So this is the production site that I'm looking at now versus the test site that I was just looking at. But it's all the same. It's all the same functionality, just a different URL.
And I mean, and when the links, if you will, are side by side with works on the on that particular site as well. Yeah, okay. I think we highlighted that on one of the slides. Most people simply go right to works, but GCA is there as well.
We have a couple of questions. Anonymous attendee said, I have followed the get my user information and hit send. I still haven't gotten an email with this information. How long ago did you put the follow the instructions? If it's only been a few minutes, it could be that it's just taking a little while.
That could be it. I can show you how that should work. So I can, I'll go in here and just put in my email address. So I think this is the feature that they were talking about. So I can do this now. And any of you guys on the line as well can do this and see if you're getting the email. But if you select get user ID, what it will do is it will find a user. And so I have the email already from that. So it was pretty quick on my side, but again, I'm here, at the bank, so it might be a little bit quicker than going through all your system, but it's working and it happened pretty quickly. So either the email address that you think is in there to your user ID is not correct, because it has to match to a user ID. So if you put in an email address that doesn't match, then there's no user ID in there. But if there's user ID in there, you should get that email fairly quickly.
And Dwayne, what it could be is the old email suffix that might have been in Payment Center that GCA recognizes, but if the attendee used their current one, nm.gov, the system would not recognize it as a valid email.
Yep.
Okay. It looks like
that is true.
It looks like they submitted about 15 minutes ago. What we can do is you can reach out to Clark or myself after this meeting, and we can work to see about what email we have in the system for you.
And I would say if Heather, if the person could say if they were in Payment Center, if they were a card holder or an administrator, any information that they can have, it'll help us track that down.
And then another question is, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would say, Clark, too, if it was just the incorrect email address that was also in Payment Center and you wanted to let me know who those folks were with the incorrect email address, I could also try and, re-add those users so they get the welcome email and the global card access, because I have all the information. If it's just a matter of matching the email address, I already have that information. So if you guys have a list of those users who've said, hey, we think we had the wrong email address, here was our wrong email address, I can match that up with the right email address if you guys provide that info.
You bet.
Okay. Another question is, will the bank statements download at the same time at the end of every month as it did in the past?
Yes. So we're actually tracking a little bit faster than what Payment Center did. But yes, at the end of the month, usually whatever the billing cycle day is for the billing account, usually the next day we're seeing those statements load in, pretty quickly. I would say give 2 days, like 48 hours. I think that's what we advise for the Payment Center users. But in general, we're observing a pretty fast adoption. And once you're logged in as a user, and if your email address is correct, you should also get an email from Global Card Access letting you know your statement's available for download. You should get an email once you've registered and completed that process, and you have a statement to download. You'll get an email saying there's a statement ready for you to download.
Right, and that's consistent with Payment Center. I know myself as an administrator for several agencies receive those emails, whether I need to get them or not. But effectively what you're saying, Dwayne, is that on the first of the month, and New Mexico does receive on a calendar month basis, that those statements will be there.
Yes, that is correct.
And then one of the other questions asked if we could put the website in the chat, and I did. I put it in the chat, so if anybody needs it, it's there. Okay, and that's all of our questions for right now.
All right, excellent. Clark, is there anything else that I can demonstrate or show for you? I think I covered our list. Again, I appreciate you guys having me on here, and I'd be glad to kind of hang on and see if you guys have any questions just in general outside of the migration as well.
Yeah, let's go back to that, how a locked out user can regain access. In other words, they've already registered, it's 2 months from now, somehow they lock themselves out. By themselves,
Sure,
what
yeah.
do they need to do, before they raise their hand and, come to us or come to you?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So when you go to the website or the homepage, using this forgot ID and password. So even if you're locked out, if you do a email address and you put your user ID in here and you hit your reset password, even if your ID has been locked out, it'll be unlocked and you'll get the email with the link to kind of set up your new ID. It's going to look very similar to the process that we just walked through with the email, where you put in a new password, twice, you confirm the new password twice, and then you confirm your security questions, and you move, like you go through that same process. It'll be slightly different in the instance that you shouldn't have to accept terms and conditions again, and you should just be logged in there. But as long as you know your email address and user ID, and again, if you don't know your user ID, you can put in your email address and it'll send you your user ID. As long as the user is in the system and your email address is correct, you should be all set. Now, if your email address is incorrect or you're not getting something, I think that's where, in the case where if they're using this and they're not getting any sort of response back, that'd probably be the best time to start contacting you guys about that, because there must be something missing there.
And that has happened before with Payment Center, so that would not be unusual, put it that way. Heather, any other?
So far, no, there's no more questions right now.
Okay. Well, good deal. Dwayne's going to stand by, and then Heather, if we could go back to the deck, or Mark, if you're still there.
Yeah, Clark, I'll put it back on. Give me 1 second. Clark, you want to go back to the PDF presentation?
Yeah, page 20. These are the.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah, these are the FAQs, some of which we've already addressed separately, or that Dwayne has addressed. Yeah.
What page, Clark?
20. Yeah. So we've already addressed some of these. We've gotten a whole host of emails I have during this presentation, and we're going to compare that with what B of A sent out. And if those folks haven't resent it, I will send that back to Dwayne. So you folks will, within the next few days, hopefully get that, get the invitation. But again, there's no urgency to it, because we've got until the December 1st cycle on that. So I'll be collecting those, collating those, and sending those to Dwayne. Okay. What if you can get into GCA but unable to download your statements? That could very well be either an operational issue on your side, or it could be an administrative one having to do with whether you are an administrator or a card holder, and it will all depend on what it is. So do let me know what the issue is as specifically as you can, so that we can adjust those settings within GCA. Early on in this process, we had a CFO ask, what is my 8-digit company number? It always starts with 0, and at some point you may need that. Dwayne tells me that we won't, but this CFO needed it a couple months back, but that's why we included it in the subject line of the October 21st email. It always starts with 0. Someone else's question, statements available on the 1st of the month. Yes, and that's the first of the calendar month, even though that may fall on a weekend. So all of these are covered in the FAQs from last week. We don't mean to push you to that. Use that as a reference, a lay-by card, if you will, to answer those questions. And next slide. Yeah. Dwayne referenced this briefly, but in the handout, you can get 2 calendar years worth of company statements. Administrators can. Presently, you can only get 13 months. You may need to go back. An auditor may ask for something, and it may just be easier to find those statements there rather than going back through post-audit submissions and so forth. And for individual card holders, if you needed to get those, you've got 3 years worth, and administrators could go back and, in so many words, assemble a company statement by getting all the cardholder statements from year 3. So expanded availability of those statements. This has come up a couple of times. Hey, can't B of A just email the statements? Why do we have to go through payments? Well, there's a lot of reasons, a lot of production on that, but not at this time. But you will get emails saying that, hey, they are available. And I would surface this, Dwayne, that if you folks are looking for a panel of test users on something like this, as you guys get closer to production, we would raise our hand to be part of that, because we have a lot of people who really pay attention to what's going on, and would, I think, without committing to them, I think that we could, if you guys are looking for test users, we would be happy to do that. That's the least we can do for all that you guys have done for us on this migration.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for that, Clark. I'm making a note of that, and I'm holding you to it.
Absolutely. Got to get through this migration first. Okay. Number 7, I'm a new administrator who is not registered on Payment Center. And we do have a couple of those out. I've seen their names flash up in the corner of my screen as I've been presenting. Okay. You will be registered as an administrator, but after Payment Center closes. We don't want you to get tied up in that platform. We do want you to connect with GCA. So if you're an administrator, let us know that. We've got our work cut out for us in November to do that, and we will happily do that. So next slide. Wayne talked about this. Works is going to continue. It is there. Okay? There is so much functionality, so much information, so much transaction history, that sort of thing. It will be there, and you will be able to access it through GCA. It's already there. There's a 2-factor authentication you have to use now. You may not have to use that in the future. To the point of actually paying B of A, number 9, yes. Payments will continue to be made in share. What we're changing here is where you get the statements that are paid. Nothing in the payment process will change. Okay? And I know that this came up in a couple of the emails that flashed up on my screen. there may be cardholders out there who have received statements, but there's other cardholders who may have registered for this training to say, hey, I can't get my statement, that sort of thing. And so what we're going to do with that is to qualify that with your agency P card administrator or CFO to see if they want you to have that. And it's not that there's anything secret because you're a cardholder, you know what your charges are, but they may want to reconcile statements centrally versus individually. Ultimately, it's up to the agency to decide that. And if that's what is needed, we will happily include you as a cardholder or show your administrator how to do that, okay? We contrast that with Works, where everybody is required to be a user because, particularly in the prepaid model, we are making sure that requests for funds load and so forth are there. So you don't necessarily have to be in GCA to get your statement. So that's are there any questions, and Heather Mark would know that have come up based on the FAQs that I've just gone through, or any others with regard to Payment Center GCA?
I don't see any other questions yet, Clerk.
Okay. Well, good deal. We still have a good deal of time. This ends the formal part of the presentation, where we're talking about Payment Center. And Mark, just a question for you. Given that we're recording this, when does the recording become available? Where is that sort of thing that you can share with the audience?
We'll probably put it on the DFA YouTube channel, so it's just a matter of editing and then getting it uploaded. So a couple of days, it shouldn't take too long.
Okay. So at this point, given that we do have the additional time, and folks who don't certainly are free to disengage from the call, but we wanted to open this up to general Q&A that those of us here at DFA can answer, or Dwayne with the platform group can, or Chris Bogner, who's been quiet about things, can answer as well. We want to make sure that we took advantage of the time that we had available.
Clark, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the screen since the presentation is done, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Anyone that has questions, use the Q&A box for these folks and they will answer them for you. So Clark, an anonymous attendee wants to know, is DFA ever going to do a P card training?
And we are in the process of doing that. What training comes down to is doing segmented training like this. This has to do with the payment piece of it. There can be training on new card holders. There can be training on, let's say, fraud or risk, that sort of thing. What we found is that it is the subject that attracts folks. If we have as we used to, a 3-hour training session, there will be a little bit in there for everybody, but not enough to get their hands around, so to speak. So a qualified yes to the anonymous attendee.
Your next question, Clark, is I received an email. The following transactions are awaiting your review and sign off from Works. Do I need to do anything, or is this just to inform me?
Without knowing who the anonymous attendee is, that is generally the latter, informing them that that is the case. They have made a purchase, a transaction, and Works is saying, tie that to a purchase request if you are in the prepaid model. And for that attendee, the prepaid model is you have to request a funds load from your administrator or CFO. Works generates that email traffic regardless of which model the agency is in.
Okay. Your next question is, when is the earliest we can download the monthly statement?
My understanding of this, and Dwayne and Chris certainly add in, but generally the right after midnight on the first calendar day of the month. The reason I say that is that we've seen not email traffic, but questions from CFOs about the previous month's statement that have come in to us over the weekend. They're getting a head start on this. So right after midnight on the first calendar day of the month is the best information that I have. Certainly supplement that, guys.
Yeah, Chris, I don't know if you know the cycle date for all the state agents or
I don't
it's
know.
all the
I
same.
can't recall, but it's typically what I tell clients is I always say, I like to say the afternoon of after your cycle is closed. Now, I have seen instances if it's quarter or year end, where that may trail you over to the later in the evening or next business day. I've never seen it any later than that ever. And I was a user in a previous life at Bank of America of our statements. And as you said, typically they would be there. We would retrieve them after midnight or 2 a.m. Central Standard Time. But should always be there the afternoon. Go ahead, Dwayne.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the great thing about GCA as well, once you're in there and you have a statement, you're going to get an email that says there's a statement ready for you to download. And that can occur as soon as the statement has been, that we have confirmed that the statement is in the repository where it should be, that Global Card Access is going to pull it from. You'll get that email saying the statement's right here. So as soon as you get that email would be the earliest that you can download it. And that's going to vary, right? So if you guys, I'm guessing based on what you're selling, your guys' billing cycle is from the first of the month to the last day of the month, right? So it covers all days from the first to the last day. So on that last day of the month, what's going to happen is at 11:59 and 59 seconds, that all the transactions that are going to post for that billing period have been posted, and we start cutting all those statements during nightly processing. We're generally done like loading that file around anywhere between 4 a.m. and 10 a.m. It varies because it's hard to say like how large the file is, but it's usually the very next day that you can download it. And again, the great thing is you're going to get an email from GCA that says your statement's ready for download going forward.
And Dwayne, just to add to that, transactions that are made the last few calendar days of the month may or may not post on that month's statement. Why? There's typically a 2 to 3 day lag between the time the authorization happens at the merchant till the time that it's posted. Sometimes we see 2 days, rarely 1. And a lot of that has to do with whether the merchant processes that transaction through its merchant bank, which in turn sends it through Visa onto B of A. So we always say to the agencies, if you are if you're within 2 or 3 days of the end of the month, you may not necessarily see that. In parallel, toward the end of the fiscal year, we ask agencies to embargo non-essential purchases the last week of the month of June so that everything was purchased in June shows up on the June statement. Not something that we have to worry about for several months here, but there's always that lag in between the time you make the purchase and the time that it posts at B of A. And if it posts at B of A, then it's going to show up on that month's statement.
Okay, Clark, getting back to one of the earlier questions, the individual that asked about training is more specifically asking when we will have a new cardholder training.
I do not have a date, but I would be happy to talk with that individual cardholder if there are specific needs on that.
Okay, I think we should commit to having a new cardholder class soon. I don't want to give anybody a date, but we will have one soon, and then we'll try to have one hopefully quarterly after that, but it should be coming soon. I do not see any other questions so far, Clark.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, hey, I wanted to thank everybody who's participated in this, particularly Dwayne and Chris have been just so helpful in getting New Mexico really close to being over the line on the conversion. So thank you again. Thank you very, very much. And for all the 100 plus, 120 or so folks in the audience, thank you for spending an hour and a half with us.
Yeah, thank you guys for having us. And again, if you guys have any questions or recommendations for us once you begin using GCA that you guys would like to see, let us know what those are, and we'll do what we can to try and make GCA and a little bit easier and make sure you guys are able to manage your program as easy as possible. So thank you guys.
Okay, I'm going to end the recording now. And again, we will try and edit and get the recording posted to our YouTube channel sometime later this week. But we're going to